and welcome to NBL now, a game of two halves. Peter Hooley and Lanard Copeland, unbelievable. The first half, the Illawarra Hawks, we thought 21 days off. They're done, they're underdone, they're not going to be able to come back. The second half, they were utterly dominant, and they were the Illawarra Hawks that we'd seen from the beginning of the season. We'll start off with the losers, the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, as we do on NBL now. The biggest story of this game, we'll break everything down, but Matt Hurt, 6 shots. He stormed out of here afterwards. Didn't want to shake hands, didn't want to join the line. Was he angry at the loss, or was he angry because he got 6 bloody shots?
I think that the latter for sure. When you ever see a star player run off like that and don't enter the huddle, and again, it's very unlike him, but we kind of sense that frustration watching throughout the game. This is your all-NBL first teamer. And I know they defended him well, so give a lot of credit to the Hawks, because every time he touched the ball, they were all up in his grill, they threw multiple guys at him, tried to get it out of his hands, but still, you've got to go through your superstar. I know Derek Walton Jr.'s back, who we'll touch on, was excellent, but he looked frustrated. Again, I understand the emotions of it, but you've got to put all that behind you, because you've only got one more game potentially left in your season. If you don't win that, it's all over.
You know what? He wasn't selfish. He should have got the ball more. We spoke about that. Now, you're right, Illawarra did a great job of shutting him down. But after that first quarter, he came to the bench, and we mouthed, get me the ball. We saw that.
Yeah.
Somebody should have got him the ball, man, because he's so dominant inside that he can go to work. 6 shots is definitely not enough for him. He needs somewhere like 15 to 20 shots.
How much of that onus do we put on the defense of the Illawarra Hawks, or were there so many opportunities that they certainly should have got it down there, or do we got to give credit to Illawarra where it's due?
I think it's a bit of both. Yeah, definitely give credit to the Hawks. They knew the game plan that was always going to go through Matt Hurt. Get the ball out of his hands, and good things should happen for us on the other end, and it did that. There were some other things, I think, that didn't go the Phoenix way in terms of that third quarter. Geordie Hunter in foul trouble early. We know they're undersized, so that probably hurt the game plan. You can actually probably take a lot out of that with Matt Hurt's limited shots, where he had to play the 5 a lot more than he had to play the power forward in this game, where that's more of his matchup. That's more where he likes to see the ball, rather than doing a pick-and-pop game in the center position, played in the power forward. So I think that has a lot to play with it. They don't have a backup center. So when Geordie Hunter goes out, Matt Hurt slides down, and they look kind of disjointed at times.
Absolutely. And you know what? That third quarter, I don't know what Tatum said to his boys, but they came out fired up on the defensive end, because Derek Walton Jr. had 9 assists in the first half. He only ended up with 2 assists. They did a good job on him. They did a good job on Matt Hurt. They were fired up. I think they scored 32 points in that third quarter and held them to 12. Anytime you can get a run like that at home, then you're going to win a game.
It's always how it works. You sit there at halftime, someone, whether they're on 30 points, whether they're on 9 assists, and you think, hey, they're going for 18 assists, they're going to break the all-time record. And they always drop off towards the end. But you speak of Derek Walton Jr., you made the comment of the night for me. Very few people come back from injury better than when they were before. And Derek Walton Jr., at least for the first half, was looking like that.
He's the quickest guy on the floor. They didn't have an answer for him. Now, I mean, they got guards that can guard him, but he was too fast. He was fired up. He was in another zone in that first half. And when he came off at halftime, he sort of mentioned to Pete, look, they can't guard me. I know what I'm doing here. But, again, they did a great job that third quarter to slow him down.
Normally the Hawks, we've seen it all season long, they're not a team that you like to match playing pace with. Now the Phoenix play very fast too, but the Hawks go very deep into their bench. We saw that. It'd be incredible to go back and have a look at the substitution rate in this game. It was an ice hockey game at times with how quickly both teams, they got down to the 11th man. We'll talk about the Hawks, but we haven't seen Todd Blanchfield much all season. He was enormous in this game. We saw some Ben Air minutes. We saw some minutes from everybody down the bench, Matt Kenyon. And I think sometimes both coaches got into a bit of a spot and bother of over-rotating. That's going to be hard to see what happens in Sunday.
You made the comment to me saying this ain't ice hockey, which I think was very true, because at what point of the game for you did they need to lock in on their starting 5? Not their starting 5, but probably their death lineup for the most part, because it did seem there was a pivotal point when Illawarra was going on a run. I can't remember the exact time of the game, but there was a lot of bench guys on the floor.
And again, that is one, you've got Derek Walton Jr. coming back, so there's some other pieces you've got to figure out, because Owen Foxwell's minutes shouldn't have to change, Angus Glover's minutes, even Ben Air to a degree. So there's all of that you have to figure out as a head coach. But the issue is there that when Geordie Hunter got into foul trouble, when Matt Hurt slides to the 5, you're playing at one time, it was Glover, Foxwell, and Ben Air on the floor at the same time. Now, they held their own, but that's not a matchup, a lineup we probably expected to see in a semi-final. So Geordie Hunter has to stay out of foul trouble. But yeah, I'm surprised at how deep they went into that rotation.
Speaking of bench points, you know, Illawarra had 36 points off the bench, whereas Southeast Melbourne only 23. So the rotation was good, but at the end of the day, you got guys like William Hickey, who had 9 rebounds, 7 assists. Anytime your guys coming off the bench giving you those kind of numbers, you have to roll with them.
When we look at the Illawarra Hawks, do we put that first half mainly defensively down to the 21 break? Southeast Melbourne going to look at that first half and say, hey, this is how we break them apart? Or was it pretty much a starving dog that just waited a little bit too long to get out of the kennel?
I think that first half is what we probably expected, where you've got two teams. I mean, the Phoenix coming off differently, but the the Illawarra Hawks hadn't played for 21 days. Your focus is to get off to a strong start offensively. No one's having 3 weeks out of the game of basketball and going to come in and say, I'm going to lock up defensively. And we saw that. They pushed the pace. They really wanted to get it gunning in transition, and defense took a back seat. It was no surprise to see them go on a run in the third quarter. This is what the Hawks do. Illawarra Hawks are going to Illawarra Hawk. They did it all season long. They had this small patch. They rotate through guys. Like Albury came in with energy. As I said, Todd Blanchfield was enormous in this game. And this is a guy who was getting DNPs at some point, barely playing, came in, made a massive impact, and this is the depth. This is the depth they have.
Look, Southeast Melbourne go home. They get a chance to sleep in their own beds. They get a chance to have their own food.
I hope so.
We hope so. I was waiting on that. But at the end of the day, you better believe Tatum's a smart enough coach to know he's got to contain Derek Walton Jr. Derek Walton Jr. won't have 9 assists in this next game. He might come out and play well, but you better believe Tatum will work on the defense and try to shut that down so when they play in Melbourne, it'll be a different game.
In a 3-game series, when you go into halftime feeling that good and you have such a poor quarter in the third like they did, I'm worried with how they respond. Can Phoenix respond? Absolutely. We expect them to. We know they can go and deliver a big win, but that zaps that out of you. When Matt Hurt, we saw him run off. We saw the team, they looked deflated. Trying to get rid of that little mental hurdle now in less than 48 hours. Don't forget, it's not Sunday night they play. It's Sunday afternoon. So they've got to try and get rid of all that and understand we just got to win one game at a time. We'll come back here in game 3, and that can be very hard to do in a 3-game series.
Now listen, Harvey and Kells both scored 24 points. They're big guards. Some kind of way Southeast Melbourne have to learn how or have to contain these guards, because if they play like that, they're in trouble.
Well, there was quite a few situations where you'd said it every time. Post up the smaller guard. We saw Ulbrich get switched on. Froling get switched on. That's the trouble when you run with this rotation, especially when you got guys like Ben Air in the game, who Josh King wants to play and who does a great job on the offensive end. That's sort of what you're giving up. And the Illawarra Hawks is one thing we know about Tatum. He's going to take advantage of any mismatch out there on the floor.
And he's going through the whole lineup. We didn't see H.J. Lee as much as we've seen at other times because Todd Blanchfield was playing so well. I do have a bit of a concern around Darius Days. He was in the back doing some sprints. We didn't see a whole lot of him. He started the second quarter. We all expected him to play well. He looked good. We've been hearing he's feeling really good. So what happens there in the future is a big watch as well. But they've just got so much depth all down the lineup. Led by Kell, led by Harvey. Froling was great. Mason Peatling provided energy. And even when you feel like we're going into halftime, the crowd was a bit quieter. We're feeling good about ourselves. The Hawks just come out and do what they do best.
Look, Southeast Melbourne are a defensive team. They're lucky enough to come out in this first half and look like an offensive team. They got to go back to the drawing board, find a way to shut down some offensive guys on that other end in order to get a win.
How much of a mental hurdle is the response for Southeast Melbourne when, you know, they had all the momentum? They're probably thinking, you know, these guys are underdone. We're ready to roll through. They probably had the game in their heads. Of course, the margin wasn't that big, but mentally, you know, you look back on that one and you think that's the one we should have won. How much does that play a role in the next game if, again, they get down, they get off to a slow start, you think, man, you know, what could have been?
Well, they should go into it feeling very positive, right? Because even though they went on that really massive run, the Hawks, in the third quarter, the Phoenix had multiple chances down the stretch to get within a couple of points. Sobey took a couple of poor shots late in that fourth quarter. So for how badly they played in the second half, they were right there. So they should take a lot of positives out of it. But the hardest thing as a player, we've all been there, is when you have those flat spots, how do you put that out of your mind? And that's got to be on Josh King, that's on Sam McKinnon and the coaching staff to go in there and say, we're going to look at the third quarter, we've got to address some things. But guys, we know what we're capable of. We showed our best, we showed our worst. We need to show up on our home floor.
Wiz Camp has continued to play the way he's playing. If he can score like he's scoring and the other guys can come on board, they give themselves a chance.
If you're Josh King right now, we'll start off with the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. They're probably the ones who have to make the most adjustment here. What's the biggest major change? And I'm going to take Matt Hurt getting more shots off the table. So we've got to think a little more laterally here. What's the biggest change they have to make outside of Matt Hurt getting the ball a little bit more? when they come on Sunday?
Well, it's keep Geordie Hunter out of foul trouble for me, because you look at what he does. He creates space with his roll, but they got beat up on the boards at the wrong time, the crucial times. You mentioned Dave O'Hickey ripping down boards. Trey Kell was getting offensive rebounds, all because they played smaller than they really are. Now, Wieskamp was terrific, sliding down to the 4. Matt Hurt can hold it down to the 5, but Froling's a big body. Olbrich's a big body, so you have to keep Geordie Hunter on the floor for as long as you can.
I agree. You got to get the big fella involved. You got to keep him on the floor, keep him out of foul trouble. If that happens, again, you're at home, you feel comfortable, maybe you get that win.
Sleeping in your own bed.
Sleeping in your own bed, bro.
The Illawarra Hawks.
I mean, besides the way they started, I know it looks poor, but they still put up 54 points. So you're going to have those moments where the other teams feel good about themselves. If I'm Justin Tatum, I'm going in there saying, we're just one down. They might not even have to review too much whatsoever, because the way they got it done, maybe fix a couple of minor things, but that's Illawarra basketball. You have a couple of poor quarter or moments in quarters, but you're going to play better than you play worse, and you're going to win a lot of games.
You got to control the tempo. You got to control. You can't let Southeast Melbourne control the tempo like they did in the first half. The Hawks are a running team. They're the ones that push the ball, get it out and go, knock down those shots. They should be fine.
Certainly. Oh, whoa. Damn it. I thought you were going to panic and run, and then I was going to do the outro there.
Hey, bro, I was born in the mountain.
I'm from round the way.
I'm from around the way.
I'm from round the way. I'm leaving here with something.
I'm from the Adelaide Hills.
That's all we got for NBL now. I'll tell you what, I'm going to get him with something next week, maybe.